Hello, welcome to a brand new Monday Night Therapy on YouTube, on Facebook, on X. I'm not Jon Johnston, you know that. My name is Greg Mahachko. I'm the host of the Five Heart Podcast and the Corn Nation Overreaction. And I don't want to say this is an overreaction takeover. It's just that John's under the weather. We decided, hey, but big guy, you take the night off. We've got this. So it works out great because we were going to do some type of reaction show to Nebraska's bowl game selection. And why not just, again, give John the night off? And let me introduce the team here from Corn Nation's Overreaction. Of course, Greg Mahachko. We have Haas Reuter, my good friend, longtime broadcast buddy and fellow Husker fan, and his good friend. I'm getting there. Definitely third man of the team, which is Jake Horde. Jake, Haas, good evening. Monday night, it's a little unusual going live on a Monday, but great to see you guys. How y'all been?
Good, man. How are you?
I'm living life, doing the best I can.
Yep, coming at you tonight from an undisclosed location. Those who watch the overreaction shows will notice the backdrop is a little bit different.
No dog.
No dog. Yeah, no, didn't want to pay the fee. Yep, none of us are John. Josh,
Nope.
none of us are John.
Well, I don't have the hair to be John.
No.
No fireplace today. We have motel art instead. So
I upgraded to sitting on my couch for this one because I pulled a muscle in my back squatting at the gym today.
And I have changed absolutely nothing. Good old reliable, boring Greg.
quit going to the gym.
That's you. Come on, man. You know that's not an option.
No, John means less. Nope.
Fuck no.
Well, yeah, no.
Sorry, Charles. If that was what you're looking for, this is the wrong crew. James Boardman is here, says, I'm at the bar watching Monday Night Football with friends. I'll leave a couple comments and watch later. That's all we can ask for, James. Josh, who said, he said that none of us are John, said Jake's in the Witness Protection Agency.
Yeah.
And Josh is a trained observer. That's how he knew that none of us were John.
Do we want to put up Aaron's most recent comment?
Well, I'll tell you what, we did promise not less profanity. So
yes, this is accurate. I am in that special chair. The hotel room I'm in does not have a desk, unfortunately, so I'm making do with what I got because I love you guys and I want to be here tonight
For the brand.
for the brand.
And if you're listening to the audio only version of this show and you're like, what kind of chair are you talking about? You're gonna have to run over to YouTube and find the video. So no, nothing gets past
Now you know.
And let's see, Marianne says, this is just before, this is a minute before we went live. Marianne says, I'm waiting patiently because good things come to those who wait. Well, I don't know about good, but we appreciate you.
Definitely a thing.
We are something. So let's just get right into it. Nebraska is going bowling. We knew that after the Wisconsin game, and we found out yesterday where they would be going. There were, I don't say speculation or rumors, but I think, some of the websites had maybe the Music City Bowl, one of the lesser bowls, no offense, said maybe out in Arizona, Phoenix area, something like that, but ended up going selected to the Pinstripe Bowl. As Dondre says here, Big Red going to the Big Apple. The Bad Boys Mower Company or something like that, Pinstripe Bowl, which you don't think, when you think New York City and pinstripes and the Yankee Stadium, you don't think of mowers. So
No, I think it was a little bit more classy when it was the New Era Pinstripe Bowl, but some of the bowl sponsors have gotten out of hand in recent years. Like, well, one year the Boca Raton Bowl was like the Cherry Bundy Tart Cherry Boca Raton Bowl. So, hey, man, like, I guess bowl sponsorships a little hard to come by these days.
Well, when they have
up to anybody, whichever way this one goes.
I mean, when they have 800 bowls, they're going to need 800 sponsors. So
yeah, I mean, like you got the Scooters Frisco Bowl, which hot take. Scooters coffee is horrible. Never forgiven them for their hostile takeover of Crane Coffee in Omaha.
Okay,
if you're in Omaha, you know.
What about Raji says bring back the Gotham Bowl?
I mean, this is a Gotham Bowl, just in a different name and a different century.
I always remember being the new era Pinstripe Bowl as well. And Mr. Aaron Keene said, Mr. Aaron Keene says, let's be honest, was the Pinstripe Bowl ever classy?
I mean, I think there was a year where it felt like Penn State and Boston College were in it every year, kind of like Iowa's long-standing reservation in Tampa, Florida, every January 1st.
What is the there's a movie, it's like a sports movie, I think sports movie, where they're talking about why the Yankees always win is because they're just the opponents are distracted by the pinstripes.
Catch Me If You Can.
Oh gosh, yeah. That's a Christopher Walken line, isn't it, in that movie?
Yep.
Or is it to Tom Hanks?
Great movie.
It is severely underrated. We don't get too often into movies with this bunch. But Tom Hanks, a young Leonardo DiCaprio, Christopher Walken in it as well. Amy Adams is in that movie, a young Amy Adams. There are others. Those are the ones that jump out. But
I think Martin Sheen's even in there.
Yes.
Yeah.
And others. I mean, there are other people in that movie.
Yeah.
But,
among others.
Among quality film.
And our listeners are probably wondering what the fuck this has to do with Nebraska playing in the Pinstripe Bowl.
Charles Hillette gets it. Do you concur, Doctor? All right, so it's going to be Nebraska. It's going to be Boston College, the Eagles. Again, I don't want to say we threw this together, but what I can tell you about Boston College is they finished right in the middle of a 17-team ACC conference, finishing 7-5 overall, 4-4 in the conference. That's good for 9th out of 17. They were 6-1 at home, 1-4 on the road. No neutral site games, but you guys educated me because I didn't pay attention to Google. I was looking for something else, but the Eagles are coached by Bill O'Brien, and I guess because we haven't really taken the time to look into their personnel, we could probably talk more about Bill O'Brien tendencies. And before the show, we were talking about just, maybe he gets some undue shit levied his way because when he took over Penn State, he very quickly, I want to say brought them back to prominence, but he kept them from falling into irrelevance.
I think, honestly, not falling into irrelevance doesn't even begin to cover it. What he did at Penn State was nothing short of a miracle in an era, rebuilding that program after the Sandusky scandal in an era with no transfer portal, and guys from Penn State were given, free reign to transfer out with no penalty. Yet USC poaching Silas Red, Lane Kiffin flew across country back then, to bring him to USC. And he recruited really well at Penn State, left the cupboard stocked for James Franklin when he took over. Bill O'Brien is a really good football coach. I think that one of the things that he gets a lot of hate is his tenure with the Texans, where I think they went 9-7 pretty much every year that he was their head coach. And they had some of the most obscure quarterbacks start for them as, AFC South Division champions. But a lot of that also, he wasn't a good GM, but he's just a really good X's and O's football coach, offensive coordinator. You're going to see a pro-style team, more of a pro-style spread. Personnel-wise, they've had some portal departures that have hit them pretty hard too. I know that their starter from earlier in the year at quarterback, Thomas Castellanos, is no longer their starter, and he entered into the transfer portal. So it's just everybody's dealing with it.
That's big because he's a pretty dynamic player. I mean, I watched a couple, better part of some Boston College games this year. Fun trivia fact about Jake is that Boston College is one of the other teams I've always rooted for. I don't know what it is. I always liked Boston. I don't know. When I was a little kid, it probably sounds kind of corny, but I like their uniforms. I don't know. I just always liked them. And Castellanos, while his stats may not have always been the greatest or the most, they don't pop off the screen at you, he was a pretty dynamic player, good dual threat, pretty
tore up
explosive.
Florida State early in the year. I mean, everybody tore up Florida State.
Right.
But
I love that. I hate Florida State. passion, not like I do with Iowa, obviously.
Oddly enough, Florida State's one of those teams that
I don't mind.
Yeah, I don't mind. Like,
yeah,
maybe I should hate them a little bit more now. After the past few weeks with Nebraska football.
I knew a pretty obnoxious Florida State fan once, and I started rooting against him, and it kind of just boiled over. But anyway,
like me with all the Arkansas grads that I've worked with at a former job.
There you go.
Yep.
But yeah, no, it's personally, I'm kind of psyched about the matchup. First ever football matchup against Boston College. I think, we opened.
Go ahead. Sorry, didn't mean to cut you off.
No, we opened at 4.5-point favorites. I mean, it's obviously geographically closer, obviously, to where Boston College is than to Lincoln, Nebraska. But to call it what it is, obviously they don't have nearly the fan base of Nebraska. So I still think we're going to have the majority of the fans in Yankee Stadium. I think it's a really cool. I love a lot of fans are disappointed, whatever. I think it's kind of cool. I think we're playing a pretty decent Boston College team. It's a gettable game for sure. Gettable game for us.
I agree. I think one of the things that I'm psyched about the matchup because it's a team we've never played before. And that's one of the things I love most about bowl season, getting those matchups that you don't traditionally see. I think the thing that kind of turns off a lot of people is the location and the venue that the game's played in. Football in a baseball stadium is always going to look weird. And, bowl season's more traditionally associated with being in a nice warm weather place like California, Arizona, or Florida. But I think it's a great one. I think it's going to be a really good game. It'll be more of a Big Ten style of football game because that's kind of how Boston College approaches things, both from an offensive and defensive standpoint. I am a little disappointed, though. I will say, really wanted Mizzou in the Music City Bowl because now there's a hatred for a team that'll never die. Like, I've started to kind of be like, whatever about Texas. Like we were talking about on Saturday when we were watching the SEC championship, Jake. But like Mizzou, that one is up there with Iowa in terms of burning hatred.
Would we have played for the Nebraska-Missouri Bell, even though it was a regular season game?
That is a great point. I would hope so.
It would have been cool. Real quick, just because some people mentioned it, I just want to bring it up. Doug Flutie should have been the starter for Buffalo, not Rob Johnson. Rob Johnson sucked. Robo Sack was a terrible NFL quarterback that was like 6'5" with a big arm, but couldn't play the position. Doug Flutie was far better, and I just want to leave it at that. Doug Flutie did not get a fair shake in the NFL because he was 5'9" and 3/4. In today's NFL, he probably would have had a lot more of a shot.
I agree. I mean,
Kyler
Murray's out there at about 5'6".
You see the Hale Flutie play against Miami. He threw that thing 70 yards in the air, into the goal line. Like, he had a huge arm. He was just a smaller guy, obviously. But anyway, this isn't a Doug Flutie show. But
hey, you know where he shouldn't have started, though? He should not have started for the Bears.
That was his worst tenure in the league, was when he was with Chicago. But
that destroyed that team. That's why they only won one Super Bowl.
I want to point out, looking at this year's Boston College team, they're again 7-5. Their most impressive win on the resume happened in their first game of November, which happened to be if I'm doing my math right, I'm not. Never mind. It would have been our bye week. It was November 9th. They beat Syracuse 37-31. Now Syracuse finished number 21 in the rankings. So they had a 20-point win over North Carolina. They lost by 10 to number 10 and playoff-bound SMU. Now they beat Pitt, lost by 4 to Louisville. They they beat Western Kentucky. They beat Michigan State by 4 points. So there's at least a little bit of a Big Ten, familiarity. But Bill O'Brien, like you said, he's not a stranger to the Big Ten. He's not a stranger to Nebraska. He, as head coach of Penn State, he played Nebraska twice, losing both of those games to the Corn Huskers. It certainly would be nice for us to keep him winless against Big Red.
I just remembered that back when we thought Trev Alberts was going to hire him, I called him the ham sandwich of college football coaches when it was me, you, John, and Todd on the 5 Heart podcast, Greg.
Mm-hmm. There's a ham sandwich reference in here.
I know. That's what it was, kind of one of those moments that it was like, hearing a dog whistle and, kind of.
Aaron Rostovsky says Bill O'Brien traded away his 2 franchise players on the Texans for a ham sandwich. Good football mind, terrible personnel guy. Now, Fred says, whoa. What kind of ham sandwich? And Aaron says, cold ham, Virginia baked.
Got a Virginia ham under one arm and you're crying the blues because you don't have a loaf of bread, Fred.
I'll say this. I like tavern ham.
Okay.
Y'all got that good tavern ham out there in eastern Nebraska?
I'm a honey ham guy.
Yeah, I don't know.
I can't do it.
I think ham is the water of meats. It's just kind of bland.
I won't eat Black Forest ham. I don't know what it is about Black Forest ham. I don't like it, but honey ham. I do like a good tavern ham, though, Greg.
Thank you.
I will take that off the bone.
Let's see. Vince says, must-win game unless you're okay with another losing record.
Amen, Vince.
100%. Yep.
And I'll follow that up. Blaine Cole says, double down. Every game is a must-win. We're at a point where
big games.
We can't afford losses anymore. Losses scare away recruits. Losses scare away current players, or coaches. There are other things as well.
I think
we're going to get into
a
tonight.
win in a bowl game would do more for this program than just about anything. And that's just kind of a water is wet statement. But think about the kind of momentum that beating Arizona in the Holiday Bowl gave the 2009 season, or beating UCLA in the Foster Farms Bowl gave the 2016 season before it really got started. That's a situation where you go there to New York City, play a great game against a good opponent, and then be able to get some of the freshmen in there that, it's a game that doesn't count against their eligibility, even if they're at that 4-game threshold already. And you can kind of showcase what 2025 is going to look like for Nebraska football. And that's something that we haven't had that opportunity in a long time. So it almost seems kind of foreign when I first thought about it earlier today. But I would really love to see, a great end to this season. I'm happy to be in a bowl. I think nothing would be worse than losing this game and just kind of going into the offseason with a whimper.
Yeah, we need to maintain some momentum. I mean, honestly, after the Iowa loss, our momentum beating Wisconsin was up here and then took a nosedive. Getting to a bowl game, getting some extra practices. If we fall on our face in New York City, it's going to be another long off season. It would be.
You're going to have people crawling out of the woodwork, that were saying the same things after we lost to USC, about poor game management, people saying to burn the entire thing down. So this is an opportunity to really solidify the firm foundation of what Rhule's trying to establish here.
Yep.
I'm going to throw this nugget of knowledge at you guys. Craig says history is lining up. Nebraska's first ever bowl win was in Yankee Stadium. Win this year, then start winning championships again.
I think it was Mark Twain that said history doesn't repeat itself, but it does rhyme.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't say repeating. He did say lining up. So I thought you were going to come in there and shit on it. So thanks, Oscar.
No. What kind of animal do you think I am?
Depends on the day.
I don't know this. Who did we beat?
Miami.
Well, in that first ever game in Yankee Stadium and first ever bowl win?
Yeah, Gotham Bowl.
Against Miami?
Yep. That's an interesting story.
1962.
I remember reading about it as a kid. Like, Devaney wouldn't let the team plane take off until the check cleared.
Check cleared. I heard about that. Yeah.
Yeah, let's see. Yep, 1962, the Gotham Bowl. So yeah, I didn't know that. I'm learning stuff here tonight too. So thank you, Craig. Thank you.
I think if I remember reading it back from when I was a kid, if I remember it correctly, Ted Hendricks, the Stork, was on that Miami team.
The Mad Stork.
Yeah, the Mad Stork, who they said was like a football savant.
Yeah, he was a weird guy. If you ever listen to any content that he's speaking his mind. It's pretty weird. So another one of those kind of lost football players that have kind of been forgotten that were actually really great in their time.
I want to throw this interesting comment up here from Ken E. Says, I don't think the bowl result matters as much as the 15 practices.
The bowl result matters more, in my opinion.
I get what you're saying.
I do too.
And I think that I think that just because of where we've been as a program with losing record after to get over 500 this year, I think the result matters. Just because I know it sounds cheesy, but the symbolism of being a winning team going into next season, but the 15 practices is huge. So
I know there was a comment earlier that somebody mentioned about, will Dana have time to rep his playbook? I think that these 15 practices are huge for development. Not only the development of young players, being able to have more developmental practices this week before getting into installing the game plan, but just he's going to have time to install different pieces of his offense that he didn't have the time to do, hitting the ground running on November 11th or whatever that day was that he was officially named offensive coordinator. So I think that you'll see a lot more of I want to say diverse run game against Boston College. At West Virginia, he loved 22 personnel, 2 backs, 2 tight ends, and he also loved 31 personnel, 3 backs, 1 tight end, kind of that diamond formation that you referenced before, Greg. And I think that you'll see some of that in the bowl game, especially if it's New York City on December 28th. Chances are the weather's going to be probably tailor-made to run the football.
Mm-hmm.
So I think you'll see a lot more stuff that we didn't use against Iowa or Wisconsin. And I also, on the same token, think that Dylan Raiola is going to be able to kind of rip it a little bit more in this game too.
Is that – you think the reason being is because of attrition or just confidence? I mean, by the time we get to the bowl game, it'll have been almost a month off to get healthy, to overcome. I mean, I guess technically 4 weeks if you want to count that as a month. To make sure that you've rehabbed enough. I mean, got most of the team, unless they're out for a significant injury, most of the guys should be coming in pretty fresh. And do you think that is going to, when you say, Dylan going out and ripping it, I mean, just arm getting over any fatigue you might have had, or like what's the basis? I'm curious of why you might say that, Hoss.
Well, there's a lot of talk about how badly he was beat up those last few games, especially with shoulder issues. And it kind of reminds me of Zach Lee, the year that we beat Arizona in the Holiday Bowl, that 20-some days off between the Texas loss and the Big 12 championship game and that Holiday Bowl against Arizona. Zach Lee went from being barely able to place the football on intermediate throws to, he had a really good game against Arizona, hitting Niles Paul deep, good command of the offense, just making throws. And I think that opportunity to kind of rest and recover is going to do wonders for Dylan. I personally think that you'll probably see a performance that resembles more closely to what he did against UTEP, Colorado, and Illinois.
We'll have to figure out if the stars will align for us to maybe do a proper preview show ahead of the bowl game, just to see, after doing our homework and things like that on the Eagles, just to see how Nebraska may actually, line up and what it might look like. O'Brien did have to say this in an interview, by the way. This is with Boston.com. He says, I'm familiar with the Big Ten. The history of Nebraska and college football in this country is fantastic. To be able to go to Yankee Stadium, it's a great opportunity for our guys. It means a lot. There is that familiarity there. We talked about, and I think Bill O'Brien as a coach he's more, I feel like, suited. I don't know, maybe not suited is the right word, but he feels like he's more of a Big Ten coach than an ACC coach.
I would agree with that. I think that a lot of that Big Ten style doesn't necessarily come from his time at Penn State, but some of the minds that he's been around in the NFL, you've heard Rule reference that Bill Belichick coaches games as if they're Big Ten games, kind of relationship between the Big Ten being the NFL of college football. And I think that you're going to see a team that's not going to make a lot of mistakes that beat themselves in Boston College. Bill O'Brien teams, even at Penn State, when he had to trot out Matt McGloin at quarterback and guys like Zach Zwinick at tailback, like they were always really fundamentally sound.
Yep.
I mean, I don't know, since we haven't done our due diligence, because we've only known about this for 24 hours and we all have jobs and things like that and lives. Maybe now is not the best time to deep dive into the matchup. I think, like I said, we saved that for a few weeks from now. But, hitting a couple of the comments that are about this game specifically, Aaron Rostovsky says Michigan beating OSU really screwed us over. The Pinstripe Bowl was trying to get them.
Yep.
So I don't think Michigan's going to complain about, whatever bowl. They're just happy to beat OSU. Blaine wants to know, how does Nebraska fare against East Coast football?
I guess in terms of style of play, it's not going to be decidedly different than really what you see in the Big Ten from those Northeastern teams like Boston College or Syracuse. If this was something more like going up against Clemson, you being pretty liberal with East Coast there because that's more the Southeast, but that would be a different story. But I think that Nebraska fares pretty good against the athletes, in that area of the country.
And does it, since college football is not so regional anymore, like there's the 500-mile radius, but at the same time we're recruiting kids from Florida, Texas, wherever, I don't really know if there's an East Coast football any more than there's everybody's everywhere. You know what I mean?
That's
I will say a lot of great players come out of New Jersey. That's evident through Nebraska's run. You still see a lot of great players coming out of New Jersey. But I agree. It's, social media, the TV contracts, the ease of travel, it's really taken college football from being a very regionalist sport where different regions of the country played it in a certain way to being more national.
Yeah, it's more like each individual school has their own brand of football. It's not really regionalized anymore. So, I mean, you're going up against kind of what you'd see against some other kind of mid-tier Big Ten schools, I think.
Yeah, they're probably pretty similar, I'd say, to a Minnesota.
Yeah, that's the first team comes to mind. Weirdly enough, also because their colors are kind of similar. But yeah, that's kind of the first team that comes to mind. Even like a Michigan State, maybe, where they had a close game. I think earlier this year against Michigan State, where they beat them. I think so.
Yeah, it was 23-19, Jake.
So there you go. Like, I think you're playing a team kind of like that. I think Bill O'Brien, just not to retread, but just, give another thought. I think Bill O'Brien's a really good coach who I have a hell of a lot of respect for. I don't care what he did in the NFL, and college fans that care about what coaches do in the NFL probably don't want Matt Rule being your coach either. So,
well, the one thing that I think, not to turn this into a Bill O'Brien apologist show, but the dude won like 4 straight division titles in the NFL.
Yeah.
That's not an easy thing to do. Yeah, sure, the AFC South was a dumpster fire, but as an in-game coach, the guy's phenomenal. As a game planner, he's phenomenal. But as Aaron Rostovsky pointed out, or it might have been Aaron Keene, as a personnel man, he sucks. I mean, but same token, Bill Belichick is not a great personnel man.
No. So, I think it's a pretty dang good matchup. So about running the ball, I think we're probably gonna get to this, but Emmett Johnson, obviously, only being in the portal, did he even officially enter the portal, or did he just mention he was going to and then never?
He mentioned, I'm sure he was officially entered into it, but he pulled out before the portal went live this morning.
And having never been a college athlete, student athlete, whatever, especially in this era, I have no idea the bureaucratic tape you have to jump through just to enter the transfer portal. Is it just as simple as here are my stats, here's my agent, I'm entering the portal, or if you actually have to sign, I have no idea. But yeah, like Haas said, he was out before the portal activated.
As far as I understand it, There is a little bit of, it's not an intensive process, but you do have to officially enter your name into the transfer portal. I mean, him sticking around is huge. I think it's respect to all the guys and you guys on the show and people that watch the Sunday overreactions that are here today. Maybe haven't heard me before. I'm a big Dante Dowdell fan. I love Dante Dowdell, but I think, especially toward the end of the season, Emmett Johnson looked clearly like the most dynamic running back and the most productive with Holgorsen scheming around him a little bit. It's huge to have him back. It's huge to have him in the bowl game. I mean, it's weird because with all this transfer portal stuff, it's almost like a lot of fans, I feel like, forgot. I was talking to my wife tonight. There's a lot of comments about me being in a bathroom. I am not in a bathroom. For those that are just joining us, I am in a hotel room. For people who don't know that don't watch the Sunday show, I travel a decent amount for work. So most of the time I can do the shows from home, but this is the first time I've had to do one on the road. But she kind of like admitted that she like forgot we were even in a bowl game. I mentioned Boston. She goes, "Oh, are we? Oh, yeah, that's right. We're playing in a bowl game." So it almost like it's weird that took like a back seat to this transfer news that was happening.
Right. Yeah, it didn't take long either, just because we're, as Nebraska fans, not so much that we're latching onto the next thing. We tend to latch onto the next negative thing. And Emmett Johnson entering the transfer portal was a very negative thing. Hell, all the, I don't say drama, but all the both staff and roster changes that took place within the last week. Oh, I can't believe, they're going, or why are they going? It's so much rampant speculation. It doesn't matter. The guys who want to be here are going to stay here, and the guys who don't want to be here, or whether they get a better offer that's better for their family or better financially or whatever, they're gone. And you, oh, sorry. I mean,
no. Finish your thought, please.
You can only ride the horses that are there,
I think one of the things that we as Husker fans, we tend to latch on to the negative news, but we don't really realize like everybody in college football goes through this now. This is just the nature of the beast. And I hate to have anything in common with Kirk Ferentz, but I'm a get off my lawn guy when it comes to the portal and what unchecked NIL is doing to college football. And every team is going through this. Quinshad Judkins was a great player at Ole Miss last year. As a freshman tailback, he hits the portal to go to Ohio State. That's not an indictment on Lane Kiffin. It's just he got a better offer. There's tampering that takes place before a guy is officially in the portal as well. So this is just the nature of the beast in college football now, and you're going to have to contend with guys wanting to leave to go play for a coordinator who gets hired elsewhere. I mean, like if the portal existed when Frost left UCF to come up to Nebraska, there's probably a pretty good chance that Mackenzie Milton is our quarterback.
Yep.
Like that's just the nature of how this plays out now. And so this is like, instead of having this, pearl clutching about the portal, we just kind of have to embrace it for what it is. We don't have to like it, but we have to know, like, yeah, we might, Keanu Davis hits the portal today. James Williams in the portal, Jamari Butler. Those are the top three that kind of come to mind. Gorgamel mentioned James Williams, and I have some opinions on that. But it's just we have to deal with it. We're going to lose players. We're going to bring in players, just like everybody else in the country.
It feels like we've entered the era of, it just feels like musical chairs. It's, this coordinator leaves and a third of the defense follows him to his next spot. Well, this coordinator brought in his own guys. So now the guys that are currently at that school get up and they transfer. And that's just kind of the nature of where we're at right now. And it's unchecked NIL. As far as I know, there's nothing preventing anybody from just opening up their checkbook and being like, hey, go get this go get the number one player in the country. We're just going to get him, and who cares?
It's exactly what happened with Michigan getting that quarterback.
Dave Portnoy, Barstool Sports guy, who I'm, not doing, I know he has political things or whatever. We're not talking about that, but a guy who I always kind of liked, thought he was funny. He's kind of brutally honest. I always kind of liked him a little bit. What's that, Greg?
I was going to say the cheese pizza, one bite, the rule.
I love the pizza reviews. I love that. So I kind of, I think he's kind of funny, even though he's kind of a jerk, whatever. But, I think he made a post just bragging about how he was just like paid for this player, like out of pocket to go to Michigan. Like, with all due respect, I think that's bullshit. There's got to be some rules involved here. This is not, and I'm all for players getting paid. I'm all for guys profiting off of their, I know there's purists out there that they should be amateurs or student athletes. That's cool, man. I respect your opinion. Just respect mine. That's all I ask in return. But I'm all for players being paid, but that's ridiculous, in my opinion.
I lean a little bit more towards the amateurism model, solely because when NIL first came out, it was supposed to be players can profit off their likeness with jersey sales, be on TV commercials, endorsements. Now it's just turning into bidding wars, year to year, just lump sums being paid out to players, through NIL collectives. And what really bothers me is you got the former owner of the Milwaukee Bucks, his name escapes me right now, but he's talking about how private equity is trying to get involved in college football. And that'll kill the sport even more past what we know it now. Like the sport died as we knew it in about 2017, 2018. And then it's undergone the same thing when NIL, rolled in 2021. So the transfer portal was bad, but it was still, manageable to field a team. But when NIL has you going, I don't know what my team looks like year to year, that's where the problems arise. Nobody's going to build teams that, 3-4 years down the line, you go from maybe being a 7-5, 8-4 team to being a national championship contender. You're not going to see that kind of linear growth anymore, incremental improvement from coaches that are program builders. You're going to see more volatility on a year-to-year basis, like a TCU making a national championship game in 2022 and then missing a bowl in 2023. I think one area of this that's really apparent for us is the sport changed drastically even from when Matt Rule took over in November of 2022 to now. And you're seeing Matt Rule he's had to kind of scrap his plan of being a developmental program because you don't have 3 to 5 years to develop a roster like you did before 2018.
I got a question for the panel. How about you're one of these big boosters and you're somebody that comes in, you help pay a lot of money for NIL to get guys to come to your school. And how about your team makes it to the college football playoff or bowl game? Someone mentioned this in the comments. I'm sorry, I didn't, but mentioned, do you forfeit your NIL if you sit out? Because what if you're a big booster and you pay to help try to win a national title? I think it was Never Mind Me, Greg, I'm pretty sure that was I have to scroll up a bit. 936. I think if you sit out a bowl game, you should have to forfeit your NIL. Was the comment. Do you see it, Haas?
936. Yeah.
936. But Greg backed out.
Bark twice if you're in Milwaukee, Greg.
Yeah. I was thinking about this the other day. I was discussing this with my old man. If you're a big time booster and you're spending a lot of money, admittedly, right, to help get these guys to your school, then you get to the college football playoff and they say, nah, I'm going to sit out and save myself for the NFL. If that was
my money back,
I want my money back because I didn't pay you just to get to the playoff. I paid you or helped pay you to go through this. I'm a fan of the program, whatever. I don't know. It feels like the scales have tipped almost too far in the other direction now.
I'm all for player empowerment. It's just at this point, there's too much. The scales have tipped too much, as you referenced. And what I really think is the problem is guys starting to not want to actually play, like opting out of bowl games. Like, you're good at what you do because you actually go out there and do it. How do you get, stronger? You get better in the gym. How do you get better at football? Position yourself to be a draft pick. You go out there and play. And so there's that self-interest where it's like, well, I already did this for 4 years, 3 years, 4 years, what's one more game? I get it. They don't want to get hurt. You saw what happened to Jalen Smith from Notre Dame in the Fiesta Bowl, back in 2015. But at some point, football is still the ultimate team sport, and it's a sport about self-sacrifice and discipline. And I think it's bullshit to sit out bowl games. And I think that if you're going that far with your team, that you see it through to the end. And to the people who say, well, what about if you tear an ACL in the bowl game? I could walk out of my house and get hit by a bus tomorrow.
Yeah,
there's no guarantees in life. So I'm a big believer that boosters should be able to withhold, or NIL collectives should be able to withhold NIL money if somebody were to sit out a bowl game. I know there's a couple guys on our roster right now that they've decided to play in the bowl game, the Pinstripe Bowl, and they are going to be compensated very handsomely through NIL for doing so.
Yeah,
so it works both ways.
It works both ways, and it went from being so, and not to just kind of retread, but it went from being so much in the NCAA and the university's favors to now it seemed like you said it kind of went all to where the players have all the power now. And they're like, they have agents, but they're negotiating, just like it's the NFL. And you have 18-year-old guys that are 5-star guys that never played it down in college football that are millionaires. Yeah. So,
and I think that, again, this is old man yells at cloud, get off my lawn take, but I don't think that any college athlete should be buying a house or renting a high-priced condo when they're in college. I think there's something holistic to being in college at that time of your life. You should be compensated for your education. You should get a stipend. You should have, you should be comfortable. Like we were talking about at an undisclosed bar on Saturday, because we're not giving away free advertising.
That's right.
If it was a $50,000-$60,000 a year cap on NIL, I think that would be fine.
Speaking of that, for YouTube, this is apple juice or something. But no, it's buying a house. I mean, dude, they're not buying houses. Some of these guys have 5-6 cars.
Carson Beck has a Lamborghini.
Who?
Carson Beck.
Carson.
Georgia.
I might eat my words here, but I don't think he has much of a future in football.
No. I think that's why Georgia was sniffing around again on Raiola.
Yeah, enjoy the NIL while it lasts. But I don't know, man. Call me old-fashioned. I like my NIL money being dropped off in a paper sack at a bus stop.
When strength coaches tell players to leave the windows on their car cracked so they can fit an envelope in there. Yeah,
that's just, I don't know. No, man, I'm pro player. I like the guys, profiting off of their hard work and their dedication. But the whole not playing thing really struck a chord with me, because I just think about it from the point of view that if I was one of these guys that were really a big contributor to these NIL collectives, or even if you're like Dave Portnoy, you have that kind of money where you just straight up write a check out of your personal checking, or I'm sure his business account is LLC or whatever he's doing, but you know what I'm saying? For all intents and purposes, his personal checking account. And then a guy just quits on you and just says, I'm not playing the playoff. I'm not playing the bowl game. That's bullshit.
I mean, at some point we are going to see people opt out of a national championship game. As outlandish as it sounds, it will happen.
Didn't Devontae Smith do it?
No, he played.
Did he play?
Okay. He torched Ohio State because Ryan Day is just a weak, ineffectual football coach.
Had he talked? Did he discuss potentially doing it? I feel like I remember something.
I think there might have been some talk surrounding that, but I want to say he torched Ohio State for at least 100 yards in the first half alone.
That was that season where a lot of players were opting out. And who was the Ole Miss quarterback, Haas? You might remember.
Matt Corral.
Yeah, Corral. And he went out, he tore his ACL.
Respect the hell out of the guy for playing, though.
My heart broke for him because he was looking at probably a second or third round pick. And I liked him at Ole Miss. I thought he was a hell of a competitor. Maybe not the most physically of course he's physically talented. He was still an NFL, even being a backup. That's not what I mean. But, he wasn't jumping up the page with his measurables, but the guy had balls and he played. He played in the bowl game and gave it all he had. And, yeah, he got hurt. But, And to me, if you're an NFL GM, you see guys opting out. I mean, do you maybe raise an eyebrow? How committed is this guy? I mean, I don't know. I'm not an NFL GM, but you kind of wonder.
I would have to think that conversation would definitely take place at some point in pre-draft evaluations.
Yeah.
Jake, while we're still waiting for Greg to come back, or maybe he just got
maybe I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah. What for you do you want to see the most in the Pinstripe Bowl? Like, what's something that you're looking for from the team that we haven't shown all year that you're hoping we show in the last game of the year?
From a practical standpoint, even though the weather is probably going to be pretty rough, I want to see us connect on a deep pass over the top where in the air the ball goes 40 yards plus and Dylan completes a long pass to Nayor Banks or Jalen Lloyd. Probably deserves. I mean, but from an emotional standpoint, you know what I want to see? I want to see Ramir Johnson go off.
Yeah,
A
New York City guy
that never transferred. He was just with the program since 2019. He was class of 2018. I mean, yeah. So, but he's a guy that I would love to see go off for about 150, 2 or 3 touchdowns. I mean, not just because I obviously want to win the game, but just for the poetic justice of seeing a cap to his career. Former highly touted recruit. He was a highly touted guy out of the Northeast, big time. Never really worked out for him, and he didn't chase, going somewhere else. So I'd love to see him do really, really well in the bowl game. And obviously what I want to say, I want to see us win. But to answer your initial question, for the love of everything, can Dylan Raiola please just air one out that actually connects on a beautiful, deep, just long arching mortar of a pass for a touchdown?
Would you describe it as one of those moon shots like a Russell Wilson?
Yes, where the ball goes straight up and then drops right into Jalen Lloyd's hands as he trots into the end zone. I just want to see it. That's what Dylan was great at in high school. That's what he was known for, being an elite deep ball thrower. And I don't think I remember him connecting on one of those this year.
No, the only one that comes close is that shot he had to Jalen Lloyd in the Colorado game.
But he threw it
across
back. Yeah.
Yeah, I very similar to what you were saying. I actually had the Ramir Johnson idea as well. I want to see him go off in his last game because that's a guy through injuries, redshirting his first year, different staffs. He stuck it out. I'd like to see, in terms of a Raiola throw, zipping it up the seam between the corner and the safety. We haven't seen a throw like that all year. And then I really would like to see some great efficiency on third down. I think that's something that on both sides of the ball, we haven't been as efficient on third down on offense as we should have been this year. And then defensively, even with being a top 25 defense, we let a lot of teams out of third and longs. And so I'd like to see us kind of have a little bit of a killer instinct, get off the field when we're on defense, extend drives when we're on offense.
Yep. Awesome take.
Great to be back, guys. I apologize. Had connectivity issues.
And, they got more Jake than they're used to during that time, Griggs.
You know what though? I was able to, oddly enough, I couldn't, the comments were loading, but the screens were not, so I couldn't see you guys. I didn't even bother jumping, putting myself on the screen. But I could see, everybody was happy when I wasn't around. So maybe that's the key. So
I'd be lost without you. I don't know.
Yeah, Scott, that's so nice. I have some starred comments, and I'm actually really glad that they stayed starred even through my issues. Let's jump into Beetle B says, I want to see how well we travel to New York. I don't know if that was really interesting.
I think you'll see a lot of people still.
I think we'll travel better than BC's fans.
Which is crazy because, again, they're right there.
Geographically now, Husker Nation is,
hungry.
Arrogantly speaking, not only hungry from the bowl drought, in my humble, totally unbiased opinion, the greatest fans in college football, we're going to travel, we'll show up. I am not personally.
Not going? Not making the trip?
Not going. It's a little busy around that time, so
right.
But it is for everybody. It's a holiday season, but
of course, they count on that. I think there are a lot of games. Hell, Kansas City plays in Pittsburgh on Christmas Day.
Yeah.
So, I know I'll be watching that game. A guy I work with, he's also a Steelers fan, and we thought he thought initially the game was in Kansas City. He's like, "You want to go to Kansas City? Go to the game. It's in Pittsburgh. It's a little bit of a longer drive." So. Vinny has some back-to-back ones here. The first one is, as far as bowl games go, do you think we got chosen for the worst bowl game? And she follows that up by saying, imagine if we got to go to Phoenix. It's 72 degrees and sunny. That would have been so fun. Also, Phoenix is like her backyard, so she could easily go, not even have to pay for a hotel room. New York City, New York City, I guess, is okay. I've never been.
Never have either.
I haven't either.
And for me, if I were ever to go to New York City, like I would want to go in at Christmas time because I'm a mark for Christmas. So like seeing the giant tree in front of Rockefeller Center, things like that, seeing the city all aglow. But I also hate crowds. I don't want to be around that many people, and I feel like in New York City that's kind of unavoidable. So
a little bit.
Never mind me says I'd take a dome in Detroit or an outdoor game in Arizona over shitty ass NYC any day.
I love how Husker fans, we haven't been to a bowl game in 8 years, and then we're
getting picky
about its location. We'll never change.
No, we're like a Bull Mountain. Don't go changing. I'll give $1 to whoever gets that reference. Let's see. Double checking. Let's see. Newer ones. I'm not seeing anything. All right, let's jump back to the starred comments here. Justin Raj says, who are your guys' prediction for DC hire?
I still don't think it's going to just be John Butler. I think that Rule would have announced it by now.
I 100% agree. I was just talking about this with somebody else. Yeah, I think we're going a different direction.
Yeah,
you talk Husker athletics outside of this show, this
until
crew.
You start paying both of us, Greg.
It dominates. I'm sure that my friends and family are probably sick of that being the topic of conversation. But I said that exact thing, Haas, just no more than 3 hours, maybe 3 hours ago. It's, if it would have been, if it would have been John Butler, I think that it would have been announced already and it would have been named.
I think that Zero, he brought up just now that Rule wanted Arnett first, and he suggested Tony White. I think that Will Arnett, that's an actor. Zach Arnett is somebody to really keep your eye on. I think both him and Chris Kiffin are both on staff at Ole Miss. I think that Chris Kiffin could potentially be that defensive line coach coming with Arnett. And then I could totally be wrong, but that's just kind of the I think we're going to stick with the 3-3-5. I thought Rule's comment was telling about that.
Yep, I agree.
This one's going to fire you guys up. Never mind. He says, I don't even like Omaha. I want nothing to do with NYC.
I'm with you, buddy. Greg and I have something in common. Greg, I don't like crowds. Haas knows I go to a gym in which I do go to a gym.
No, we can tell, brother. We can tell.
In your life.
Huh?
You've lifted a little bit in your life.
Yeah, a little. A little bit. I eat a lot of donuts or whatever. Whenever people ask me, how do you get? Just eat donuts and drink orange juice, and that's it. But
there's a reason that your guys' sleeves stop like here, and mine go all the way down to my elbow. Because
to be fair, I do. It's rolled up one notch just because I don't like it sitting in the middle. But it's also it doesn't matter anyway. No, I don't like crowds either. I go to a Zero, Jake, so it's small. Yeah, thanks, Zero. I appreciate that, buddy. But I don't like crowds either. I go to a gym that's a very niche, small, little local gym that not a lot of people frequent. I agree. I want nothing to do with New York City. I was in Chicago and I almost had a panic attack. So I'm more of a rural type of guy by nature.
Yeah, not a fan of crowds. I like big cities though.
Yeah, I know you're a big Chicago guy.
Yep.
Kaylee says not everyone's excited about NYC, but I'm excited to see the sea of red in Yankee Stadium. So yeah, I do agree with that.
Pretty cool. I mean, that's whether your opinion, whatever the opinion on the Yankees that anyone has. I mean, it's very Americana.
Oh yeah, it's iconic. I know it's not the original Yankee Stadium, obviously, but it's an iconic venue. It's kind of cool.
I know I missed a lot of the Emmett Johnson talk, and I apologize for that. I'm glad he's staying. I agree. I hope Ramir Johnson has a big game at Yankee Stadium. It would be a nice homecoming event for him. Gargamel says, what do you think of James Williams going to Florida State and Haas? I highlighted this one. Like, look, we don't have to burn bridges or stoke flames, but I know you had opinions.
I mean, I'm just going to say this. I mean, he's a very talented pass rusher. He's about 10 pounds and a counter move away from being all conference. That being said, the guy's kind of doing his best Corey McEwen impersonation, being the biggest Husker douchebag since, Corey McEwen all those years ago in 2007.
C-Mac?
Corey McEwen, dude, he was a good player in 05 and 06, but remember 07? Dude was insufferable.
He got a little big for his britches, but come on, he's still a C-Mac.
There was some rumors about him not being the most popular guy.
But we know, I mean, we've heard him talk about quite a bit this season about his he looks at Terrance Knighton as like a father figure. So when Tony White announced his departure,
are you having a stroke?
And maybe a day or two later, Terrance Knighton, you could see the writing on the wall that Jay Will was not going to stay in Lincoln.
Yeah, I mean, right away when Knighton was first rumored to go to Florida State.
Am I having connection issues?
Yeah, you were. Yeah, sound like you were having a stroke.
Yeah, it was pretty bad.
Did I freak out on the connection again a little bit?
A little bit, but not too bad right now.
We understood what you said.
Just to finish the thought, what I was saying is the second it was rumored for T. Knighton to go to Florida State, that was the first departure that I thought of. And then, it'll be interesting to see where Prince Will goes as well.
Yeah. Ken E says, I'm starting to think the roster limit may help Nebraska. If they keep 3 to 4 full practice stations, they'll get 50% more reps with a third of the team gone.
I think that at some point roster sizes got too big under Pelini, Frost, and now Rule that it needs to be pared back. Not necessarily a bad thing.
Let's see some of the other star comments that I have here. Rostovsky says we keep losing defensive linemen, even those projected to start next year. When are we going to announce a coach there to stop the bleeding? And it's not. I mean, realistically, it's probably not going to happen before the bowl game.
Probably not. No, I would have to say that if it's somebody like Arnett, who's an analyst at Ole Miss, it's probably before the bowl game potentially. I would also say that if it's not somebody, it's not Arnett and it's more like Scott Simons from SMU, they're in the playoff, might be waiting a while. So, And then again, I think that might be a little bit of a big time wish to hire Simons strictly from the standpoint that SMU, all the private money they have, they won't get outbid by us if they want to keep him. So that one might be kind of a caviar wish.
Let's see. We're talking about, speaking of money, Aaron Rostovsky says, I love NIL because it brought back college football 25.
It did.
Buddy, I couldn't agree with you more. Talking
about the portal incoming, Never Mind Me says, we better be active AF in the portal or we'll be 3-9 next year. I know Rule isn't a fan, but he's got to get with the times.
I think that you'll really see Rule embrace the portal more than he did his first 2 years.
And I also think that, he said they're looking to get 20 guys from the portal, 10 on each side of the football.
Yep.
So, it sounds like that's not something you say when you don't embrace the evolution of the game.
I think that if he did embrace the portal more immediately upon taking over here, I do think that the first 2 years look different record-wise. I don't think it looks like Indiana going to the college football playoff in year one under Signetti, but I think that you see, a lot better of a quarterback situation in 2023 because maybe you go and take a couple of quarterbacks out of the portal instead of just, Jeff Sims.
Speaking of, his name is in the comment section. Ken E says, does anyone find the irony in Jeff Sims possibly playing in a playoff?
A little bit.
100%. I was just talking about that a few hours ago.
Yeah. And while we're talking about former Huskers or, not a player, but coach and where they are now, Husker Bob says, how about Boise State in that bye round, thanks in large part to Chenander's aggressive defense?
Water always finds level ground. Honestly, good for Chenander. That style of play in the Mountain West, a little bit different than, in the Big Ten, it's probably more similar to the AAC when he was at UCF in terms of offensive style. His defense was very schematically unsound at Nebraska. When you're having your corners take on 260-pound tight ends at the line of scrimmage against Michigan's run game, you really don't know what you're doing.
Nothing to add.
Okay.
Just that's, you said it right. That's all that needs to be said about that.
Yep. Nothing like watching Trey Neal try to take down Karan Higdon.
It was maddening. Yep. I think Greg is
all right. I'm back.
Potentially.
Greg, are you running LimeWire still on your computer? It's just infested with viruses.
I'm not back.
I'm not back.
No, this thing gets tested daily.
For computer STDs?
Jeez,
Greg.
So,
Greg the leg.
I don't know if we were actually going to get to this topic or not, but speaking of former coaches, do we want to bring this up, Haas, or?
Yeah, you know what, Fred, I can't pull up comments because I don't have that ability, but
yeah,
Fred,
we don't have that.
Greg's computer has more viruses than Frost after a trip to Bottoms Up. And Scott Frost back at UCF.
I cannot bring myself to not root for the guy. I don't know what it is. I hope he finds success. I know earlier, Haas, I don't know if you remember some of the viewers that maybe have been around watching the overreaction show Sunday when I first was brought on and gave my kind of backstory. I famously said that I had disdain for Scott Frost, and if he walked through the door of my garage, that I would say, let's go.
I forgot about that.
Yeah, and he's a pretty tough dude. He probably kicked my ass, but maybe not. I also got like 20 years on him. But I can't help but root for him, and he looks good. He looks healthy. When he was coaching for us, he looked stressed out. He looked maybe like he had some problems. I don't know. He didn't look the most healthy, but he looks good now, and I wish him the best. And I take no offense with any of the comments he made. I thought he was a class act in his introductory press conference, the way that he described, climbing the ladder of success and everything he said. I thought it was, I don't know. I can't help but root for him. So I hope he does well.
I'm right there with you. And, if you're pulling receipts on what you said about Frost, I'll pull receipts, that I've said as well. I was a guy that I didn't want to hire back in 2017, but ultimately when he had that run at the end of the season, I was like, okay, this is the guy. I didn't want to hire him at first because I thought it was just the Nebraska connection.
Yep.
That's what everybody was pining for. But when he goes and beats USF and Memphis and Auburn, it was like, maybe this guy's the real deal. So, we could hire Kermit the Frog as head coach, and I'd still root for him to succeed because Nebraska succeeding is more important to me than me just being right about a coach, working out or not working out. I really grew to hate what Frost did to the program. I thought that he, actually made it worse than what it was when he took over. He cratered the program even further. And I do agree with David Matney that he ripped us off, that he's a fraud. I also think that maybe some of my own life experiences over the past few years that, rounded off some of the sharp edges. And I hope that somebody, finds their happiness again. As cliche as it sounds, I have no ill will towards the guy. Hope he does well. What's in the past is in the past.
Fred says, I cannot root for him. He made his money off of us and shit the bed and left us in ruin.
I understand all that, and I feel the same way to an extent. But like I said, I don't know what it is. I can't help but, to me, I don't know if it's just because my loyalty to, I think you could say it both ways, but the fact that he was a player that laid on the line for us back when he was here going to college here, I don't know what it is. I just can't help but root for the guy. And I'm just somebody call me a softie. I really I want to see people do well.
Yep.
I do not bask in the failure of others very often, unless they're somehow connected to the University of Iowa.
That's fair.
In that case, then I don't give a shit. It's the only game we play that I root for injuries, because I never want to see guys get injured except when we play them. But I do not bask in the misery of others. And like I said, Greg, you were kind of gone. I don't know if you heard, but my first introduction to the show, I made the famous comment that somebody could pull that, if Scott Frost walked through the door of my house right now, I'd say, let's go, let's throw down. What you did to the program, I was so bitter, but it's a weird feeling. And I hope he succeeds. I don't know why, but I'm rooting for him.
Yeah. A couple of,
with our former coaches, Solich went to Ohio. I know some Nebraska fans, claimed they were going to be Ohio fans after that. My attitude towards him and Pelini, Riley was all ambivalence at best. Hope you do well. Not going to, put too much effort into caring if you do well. It's kind of the same with Frost. Wish you well. Hope it goes well for you, man. But that's about it. You did crater our football program worse than what it was when you took over. I think that if he were still head coach now, that you'd still be looking at 3 and 5 win seasons. It was never going to get better. And I think one of the things that people can lose sight of, and, we all do it, especially because, we're avid diehard fans of Nebraska football. We forget about the human side of things. And, you're looking at somebody that went through a lot of life changes in a short period of time, leading up to them becoming head coach at Nebraska and while they were coaching here. And so, I think that people lose sight of the impact that can have on people, especially, their performance at work. Ultimately, you're a professional and you got to rise above it. You need to be able to, still produce even when you're grieving. But, it's one of those things where it's like, I don't have any ill will towards the guy. He took over and created my favorite football program. It's not like, he ran over my dog and, called my wife, a bad name.
Zero with an interesting comment here. Frost called 33 games within one score with a 750 of Jack in him and no preparation, and it was an impressive run.
Honestly, it kind of goes back to the Pelini thing. It's like, hey, if you could have done a little bit more to go above and beyond to push your program over the top, you would have won national championships. What Pelini and Frost accomplished at baseline, at their respective baselines, is kind of impressive if you look at it in kind of a sicko way.
Kaylee says he was a bad coach for us, but I wish him all the best. Hopefully he has grown and improves. Rostovsky says, I'm glad he's happy. I know what it's like to go from a workplace you enjoyed to one that is hell, so I'm glad he realized where he's happy. Not going to root for him hard or anything like that. So
I think he brought that hell upon himself. I think that he suffocated in his own expectations. And people are going to go, well, he had this problem or, whatever. Maybe there's allegations of potential and again, I don't know anything. I'm just saying there's allegations of potential alcohol or whatever. I think he's a guy that really just wanted to succeed here so bad because of the expectations that at first maybe he may have done some things that to try to cope with that. And then I think he just suffocated himself with expectations.
I think he was a victim of his own success.
Exactly. And he didn't tank.
He wasn't ready for the job.
He wasn't. And he didn't tank this program and dig us into a further crater on purpose. He was out of control. He obviously, toward the end, we all saw, look at his, he did not look good. You see him now, he's back at UCF. You see him at the podium. He looks healthy. He looks like he's had some time to kind of reevaluate himself and get back into coaching. And I don't know. I been there at times with work and stuff, never at the level he was. So I just have, my heart kind of goes out to him a little bit, as much as what he did to this program, which I'm not going to forgive him for, but I still hope he succeeds. Cause he did. He was, there you go. Dave Matney, Scott Frost was so bad. I want to formally apologize to Bill Callahan and Mike Riley.
Bill Callahan did not deserve the hate that he got.
Bill Callahan, I am a Bill Callahan apologist through and through. He did not deserve the hate that he got. But Scott Frost did not fail here on purpose. So I hope he does well.
This is an interesting comment here from Kaylee again. She says, I like how no one talks about Riley, but we always talk about Frost. It's all about what we expect.
I didn't think Mike Riley deserved some of the bullshit that he got from people down the stretch when people were making up rumors about his wife, and, Alzheimer's, stuff like that down the stretch of his tenure here.
Oh, geez, I didn't hear that.
Yeah, I did, and I thought it was bullshit. Husker, you remember we talking about that in college? I don't think that you go after someone's family like that. I think it's bullshit. Mike Riley was as class act as you're going to find.
Yep.
Yeah.
Guy went to his own, he was a good guy.
Yep.
He was the Mr. Rogers of football.
He went to his own exit press conference to answer questions about his termination with nothing but class. No, he would have not succeeded here ever. You could have given him 15 years and he wouldn't have. But again, all the respect in the world to the guy. Class act, and it's weird how Nebraska, we keep doing this. This weird ebb and flow where you go from Bo Pelini, this fiery, kind of unhinged, kind of psycho on the sideline, to like Mr. Rogers. Like it's like you're punching back twice as hard in both directions.
No, Mike Riley was the palate cleanser. He was the little sorbet after a particular course of a meal.
Yes.
It's just like reactionary politics, Somebody's in office for a while, the next person that gets elected goes complete opposite direction.
Yep, the other way.
But there's no scraps in my scrapbook, so let's move on from Scott Frost.
We've got some. Let's see. Aaron Rostovsky says, "Do you think he gets some former Huskers that committed to him here to go down and play for him at UCF?"
I don't know. I don't really know how he's perceived amongst guys that are still on the team.
It's a great question. I don't think so. I don't think it's anything that we should be concerned about.
A lot of those guys are pretty late in their eligibility.
I was going to say most of those guys are probably getting up there now. So I don't think so, but still a really good question.
Let's see. Aaron Keene says, thus far, we've heard rumors of Will Arnett and Kermit the Frog as coaches for Nebraska. Haas pulling out all the stops.
Yep.
We do have some other fun ones here. Earlier in the show, we were talking about ham sandwiches. So Aaron Keene called us or other people in the comments ham elitists.
100%. Yeah.
Yes. Charles agrees with you, Jake, on the Black Forest ham.
It's gross.
Fred says, I like a good ham steak on the grill.
Cast iron seared with bacon fat with 4 eggs on the side.
4 eggs on the side. That's a breakfast.
Who am I kidding, Haas? How many eggs do I eat a setting typically?
Oh, you and I think 5 to 7.
Yeah, I was saying I don't like odd numbers.
Arkansas have given their lives for us.
Yeah, I don't like odd numbers. So 6 to 10. I've had 10. I've had 10 at a time. So
I think I usually cap out about 6,
which is actually still a lot. It's still a lot.
That's why I buy that 5 dozen at Costco every time I go grocery shopping.
Are the eggs cooked? Charles asks. Most of the time, yes. However, I have done them just out of a glass.
Interesting.
The odds of getting salmonella from pasture-raised eggs is almost nothing. It is so minuscule that it's we're not getting into nutrition on this show. You wash the outside of the eggs when they're pasture-raised because they come from a farm, and they're kind of dirty. Ones that my wife and I get sell feathers on them and all that. Haas, you've been at my house, you see that we get them. No, you're not going to get salmonella from those. They're not raised in disgusting conditions. They're not surrounded by rodents. They peck and they eat their natural diet. They're fine. I've done it a long time and never gotten sick. White or brown, depends on the breed of the chicken. Typically, they're brown.
I know my sister has chickens, and so I get eggs for free, and they're brown.
There you go. And they're pretty much always. I have had paler ones that are almost white, but
Justin Raji wanted to know what tavern ham is. Now, the official version from Google is it's a smoked ham often served in deli sandwiches and wraps. It's a rich, smoky flavor and often extra lean and low in fat. Boar's Head has this is fact. I've actually had their tavern ham. Boar's Head are really good. Kretschmar is okay. There's a smaller meat processing place in my area, and Winneman's Tavern Ham is by far, like, if I could ship tavern ham to you, Raji, I would. And maybe I could, but it'd probably be expensive. But Winneman's Tavern Ham is by far the best ham I've ever had. It's not, I don't like a sweet ham. I like a salty ham. I'm just gonna catch so much shit in the comments for that. No, tavern ham is where it's at. So, all right, a couple other ones that are here. Roger Moore says Yingling beer will not enter the portal.
No, but Greg will enter the portal on Yingling.
Yeah, there we go. Wow.
And Fred says to Roger, if Yingling does go into the portal, it's going right in my mini cooler. So I've got one of these. I've got another one behind me. Went across the river. Apparently by March or April, Yingling's supposed to be available in Illinois, but I'll probably still drive to Missouri. I don't know what the average gallon of gasoline costs up in your guys. $2.29. I got it at Sam's Club on Friday. $2.29, and I filled up my. Yeah, I'm a dad of three. I got a minivan. I filled up my minivan for under $40 for the first time ever. It was glorious. Again, Missouri doesn't have that obnoxious sales tax on gas that
we do. We do.
Oh, you got that?
Oh yeah.
I am a gasoline snob. I only put premium in my pickup, so it still costs me about $3.09 a gallon, which is still
that's pretty good for premium.
Pretty dang good. All right, I don't want to backtrack, but Gorgamel highlighted ham sandwich with Dijon mustard. Absolutely, that is the best way to do it. And let's leave the ham talk at that. This is a Husker show, not a Boar's Head and Kretschmer show.
Not a Brett Bielema coach's show.
No, but that is the correct way to eat a ham sandwich. You don't drive a diesel, Justin Rogge says. No, I do not drive a diesel.
I see you sputter around a little Volkswagen.
No, I do drive a pickup. I have several hobbies that it comes in very handy to have. Yes, it comes in very handy to have the amenities that a pickup truck offers. But no, I do not drive a diesel. I don't have the necessary requirements for hauling that a diesel would require. So I save myself some money and just get a standard duty half-ton pickup that does the job. So good question, though. I like talking about a little bit of the personal stuff once in a while. It's kind of fun.
One more fun one, and this is my last starred comment of the night, and it's from Blaine Cole, and he asked this one, God bless him, a little over an hour ago. He said, what is your vote for best football movie?
Great question. Oh, man. Haas, you want to go or you want to think about it?
Give me a minute. You go first.
I'm going to go Remember the Titans. It's my favorite one. Love that movie. Oh man, there's another one that's really good. It's and I don't, again, we don't talk politics or religion on the show, but there's one that it's about a Christian school. I forget the name of it.
Facing the Giants.
Facing the Giants. Yes.
That's a great one, dude.
Great movie that like almost nobody has seen. That is
I've seen that one. Yeah.
It's a fantastic movie. It's just because it wasn't commercialized that it wasn't really talked about. So objectively, I'm going to Remember the Titans, but kind of an honorable mention, kind of a sneaker B type movie pick, Facing the Giants. Absolutely amazing movie.
That, what is it? What do they call it? The death crawl or something? That
the
scene
death crawl
with Brock. That was powerful, dude.
You're in the end zone. It was like super resonating with me. It was awesome. And also, it was kind of the time that I was coming up in my football. I don't want to call it a career. It wasn't but where it kind of resonated with me, like toughness and believing in yourself and just having grit and determination and what it means to really actually be tough. Those that are currently watching have been with us this entire time. If you ever just want to kill like an hour and 40 minutes and watch a really good sleeper pick football movie, I will say it is a little bit, it leans a little bit on the Christian religious side of things. So, but it's a great movie, regardless of your religious beliefs. So,
Hoss, you got one, or do you want me to throw a few of these ones?
I go with Remember the Titans as well. Close second, definitely, as Fred mentioned, because it's so outrageous. Any Given Sunday.
Yeah.
And also, I'm a big Al Pacino fan, like pretty much anything he's in.
Yep.
So I'm going to, like, this is no secret. I've never been shy about this, even on a Husker.
We know.
I'm with Matt. So my favorite movie of all time is Rudy, but
it's more of a biopic. Football's just kind of there.
It's like The Waterboy. I think that's more of a comedy. Like, it's not really a football movie, in my personal opinion. But sorry, Greg, go ahead.
But I think as far as football movies go, I'm for whatever reason, I love Remember the Titans. But The Replacements, Gene Hackman, Keanu Reeves.
Not a fan.
Oh, I love The Replacements.
Not a fan of that one. What was the Texas high school football movie that Ted Hiker pointed out at 10:21?
Friday Night Lights.
That is Friday Night Lights, which is also one that came to mind. I agree with you, buddy. That's a great football movie. That was one of the ones I thought of. Oh, man. Yeah. I love Remember the Titans. It's a classic, but I'm actually a big Friday Night Lights fan too.
Minnie's a big fan of Friday Night Lights, the show.
Never seen it. Heard it's good.
I hate to be that guy, but I read the Friday Night Lights book in like 7th grade. So before the movie came out, the movie changed so many of the details that it didn't even resemble anything that actually happened in the 88 season for the Permian Panthers.
No, it was like not even, it was so historically inaccurate.
I mean, but you can say the same about Remember the Titans.
Yeah, but at the same time,
or you can say that Rudy, God forbid,
I didn't read a Remember the Titans book. I'm just being the book guy, the book purist here.
By the way, I'm gonna.
Friday Night Lights show is really good, Jake.
I'm gonna lose really good help if I don't acknowledge the fact that our thumbnail, our featured photo for this, if you saw this on YouTube or Facebook or X, that cover photo for tonight's show was done by Minnie. Under duress. I asked her a few hours before the show started. So shout out to Minnie, because I told her I'd shout out her efforts on that. So thank you, Minnie, for putting that graphic together again under short notice. With John being down, we kind of got the ball rolling on stepping in and doing the show tonight. Minnie was a big part of that as well. So thank you, Minnie, for doing that. She does all the ones for 5 Heart. So I knew exactly who to turn to. Let's see. Aaron Keene says Rudy rhymes with Flutie. We've come full circle. Fred says The Longest Yard original.
Ooh,
solid pick.
Very good pick.
Gargamel agrees with Roger Moore, who I have up here with Brian's song. Roger said, and Gargamel agrees. Brian's song.
That's. There's so many great football movies out there. It's hard. Brian's song is a tearjerker. For those who haven't seen it, it's worth the watch. It's a little bit of an older movie at this point, but it's a great movie, well acted.
Success in Life with Mike says The Program.
I think that's the most overrated football movie there is.
Appreciate the take, buddy, but no.
We like your opinion. It's trash. No kid. That's what they're saying. MK says Waterboy. How about Waterboy?
It's a comedy, not a football movie.
Let's see. Rostovsky says We Are Marshall and The Express.
Oh my God, both also amazing movies, man.
Agreed.
Yeah. I think that's the beauty. And someone else said, well, maybe if I duplicated this one.
Oh yeah.
Is Dana Holgerson going to implement the annexation of Puerto Rico into this bowl game?
No.
I don't know. Probably not.
No.
But I bet he's going to drink a lot of Coors Light and Red Bull on that bowl trip.
I love the guy. I don't know what it is about him. I just like it.
Success in Life with Mike says in regards to the program, but fun entertainment, especially when they hit the Iowa boys in the program. So.
Yeah, just like when Iowa loses to the South Central Louisiana State University Mud Dogs and the Water Boy.
Rostowski says the Water Boy is a foosball movie, not a football movie.
It's a foosball movie. Yeah.
Ted Hilker says all the right moves.
All the right moves.
Solid movie, actually.
It is 15, 16 years.
Oh, man. I love this kind of – I love the Husker stuff. Obviously, we're a Husker show, but I love kind of this part of the show where we kind of do this. All the Right Moves is a super underrated, kind of under the radar, really good movie.
MK just had something that I feel very passionate about, saying that Jake, you probably said Die Hard's an action movie, not a Christmas movie. 100% MK, it is not a Christmas movie.
No, it is an action movie. However, that being said, my favorite time to watch it is during Christmas. So, no, in my opinion, not a Christmas movie. However, in a weird, paradoxical fashion, it is my favorite Christmas movie.
Aaron Rostowski, what's the Brendan Fraser one? School Ties. Y'all familiar with School Ties from 1992?
I actually don't know.
I tried to watch it one time.
I love School Ties.
Wasn't Brendan Fraser the star in a baseball movie where his name was Steve Nebraska?
No, I don't know about
that. No, there's a super under the radar where he plays for the Yankees. Hold on, I'm gonna look this up.
For those who don't know, School Ties not just stars Brendan Fraser, but a young Ben Affleck, Matt Damon, Chris O'Donnell, Cole Hauser, who, of course, Cole Hauser is huge now because of Yellowstone. And he's a public school quarterback who basically gets recruited to play at this private Christian school because they want to win, and they're paying his tuition and things like that. It's a fantastic. It talks about anti-Semitism and honor and codes and things. I love this movie. I really do.
I've never seen it.
School Ties.
By the way, yes, The Scout, 1994.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Brendan Fraser plays the greatest baseball player. It's the most unrealistic movie ever, where he literally pitches a perfect game where he strikes out 27 straight players on three. He pitches 9 straight immaculate innings. It's the most ridiculous movie of all time. But his name in the movie, Brendan Fraser, is Steve Nebraska.
Yeah, what a weird name.
Really weird. Yeah. Nobody watched it except Justin Rogge, me, and
I Am Bad Dad.
We're the only 3 people that have ever seen it.
Charles Hulett says, wasn't Kevin Bacon in School Ties? He was not, unfortunately. Kevin Bacon was in a lot. I'm sure if we did the 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon, we'd probably find a lot of crossover there. What about Jerry Maguire?
That's one that I've still never seen start to finish.
It's I don't know. It's not my favorite.
Yep.
Kaylee loves watching it.
Yeah. It's a good movie.
And Minnie says, my daughters love the show Bella and the Bulldogs. It's about a girl who's a star football player for her school team. I'm not familiar with that one.
Maybe it's because I'm having a daughter soon, but I was just talking to a guy at my job the other day about his daughter. He was showing me she's like a really competitive wrestler. And I just think it's really cool to have girls doing these kind of non-traditional sports where they're super competitive. I think it's super awesome. I know there's some mixed opinions out there, and they, like I always say, I'll respect your opinion if you respect mine. I just demand the same respect both ways. I think it's really cool to have girls, competing in certain things, and there's going to be obviously a point where it's very difficult for them, if not even possible for them to actually compete at the higher levels. But when they can do it, I think it's amazing. I think it's awesome, and I think it should be encouraged.
I Am Bat Dad says, did anyone say the replacements? I did.
Yeah, Greg did.
Yep. So, all right, guys. I don't know if I think we've covered everything. I think John would be proud.
I think we have.
Kind of went off the rails for a while, but I think it was all valuable, fun stuff.
You know what? We're not quite to the off season yet, but when we get to the proper off season, it's a lot more of the latter half of the show than the front half of the show. So,
yeah,
Haas can attest. So, Yeah, Charles Hulette says smash that like button or something. Somewhere in here, I probably even have a graphic for that. I don't know. John needs to clear his images out. I can't see all that stuff. So no, I don't think there is a graphic for that. Yeah. Like this video, subscribe to the Corn Nation YouTube channel if you haven't already, and make sure that you hit that subscribe button so that you're notified every time we drop a new video, new content, new stream. That's true. Fred says, don't lie, Greg. John would not be proud. He'd shit all over you. He did that last week. I paid him, and he says, what the hell? So, all right, for Haas Reuter, for Jake Horde, I'm Greg Mahochko. This is Monday Night Therapy, and we got to end the show the way John would end the show. So I'll start by saying good night, Haas.
Good night, Greg.
Good night, Jake.
Good night, Greg.
Hey, you guys. Good night.
Good night, Jake.
Good night, Haas.
We're the most dysfunctional Waltons you'll ever find. But thank you all. Go Big Red, and we'll see you next time.